In this video we're going to change a fraction to a percent, so we'll do these two pages. Here's page 1, these examples, and page 2, these examples. Okay. So to change a fraction to a percent, I would suggest you first begin by changing the fraction to a decimal, right? So how would you turn a half into a decimal? Well, a half is 1 divided by 2, right? Or so you go 2 into 1. And so now we need to remember how to divide with decimals, right? So 2 into 1 won't go, so I need to put in a decimal point and add some zeros here. And what's 2 into 10? Well, you could say 2 into 1 goes 0 times, and your decimal point must be above the one in the division, right? And now 2 into 10 goes 5 times. So I have 0.5. So 0.5 is what this is as a decimal. Now, when we're turning to percents, percent is per 100. So I'm going to write this as 0.50. I'm just going to stick a 0 on there, okay? Now 0.50 is of course 50 hundredths or 50%, but I guess that we should so of course what we have is 50 hundredths, okay, 50 per 100, which of course is 50%. 50 per 100. 50 divided by 100 is 50%. Percent means divide by 100, right? But of course you could just use the trick where you just take the decimal point and move it 2 spaces to the right and you get 50, right? So 1/2 equals 50%. Now, how about 1/4? What's that? It's 1 divided by 4, right? So don't you have to go 4 into 1? Four into 1, or 4 into 1.0, and the decimal point needs to be above the one in the division, right? The 4 into 1 goes 0 times. So 4 into 10 goes twice, but you've got a remainder. So you need to stick on another 0 here, right? So 4 into 10 goes twice, remainder 2. And what's 4 into 20? 4 into 20 goes 5 times. So I have 0.25. Now 0.25 of course is 25 hundredths, or 25 divided by 100, or 25 per 100, or 25%. 25%. And of course you could just use the trick where you just move the decimal point 2 spaces to the right, and that gives you your 25, so you've got 25%. So please press pause and do 2/5 by yourself, see what you get. Okay, I'll do it now. You've got to go 5 into 2. And I'll stick on a couple of zeros and see what happens. 5 into 20 goes 4 times. No remainder. So I'll put a decimal point here, put in a 0. So I have 0.4. And I could just move the decimal point 2 spaces to the right, stick in a placeholder 0. So that gives me 40%, right? Or in other words, 0.40 equals 40 hundredths, which is 40%. So this is 40%. Okay, 1/3. We just got that as a percentage earlier. But what I'll do is I'll go 3 into 1 and stick on some zeros here. Okay. 3 into 1 goes 0 times, put up the decimal point. 3 into 10 goes 3 times, remainder 1. 3 into 10 goes 3 times, remainder 1. And I can keep going on and on and on and on and on. And this is kind of funny. So I guess I might as well, we're used to that. So put on another 0, remainder 1. 3 into 10 goes 3 times, remainder 1, put on another 0, and so on. So this is going to keep going on and on forever, right? So I have 0.333333 to turn this into a percentage. I need to move the decimal point 2 spaces to the right, and that gives me 33.333%. Okay, because the 3's keep continuing, right? Now the 0.333333 part, you might recognize that as 1/3. So the 0.333 is actually 1/3. So this is 33 1/3%. Okay. So 2/3 is, you've got to go 3 into 2. Okay. 3 into 2, that's 2.000, right? 3 into 2 goes 0 times, put up the decimal point. 3 into 20, well, 3 sixes is 18, so 3 into 20 goes 6 times, remainder 2, right? And 3 into 20 again goes 6 times, remainder 2. 3 into 20 goes 6 times, remainder 2, and so on, 6 times. So what I have is 0.6666, and it keeps going on. And as a percentage, I can move the decimal point 2 spaces to the right, and that gives me 66.66%. Now the 0.66 continuing part itself is in fact 2/3, right? So this can be written as 66 2/3%. Funny enough. Okay, now the 1/3 and the 2/3, I mean, these come up a lot, so you know, you won't have to do a whole lot like them, but it's just kind of nice to be familiar with these at least, right? Now 5/8, you've got to go 8 into 5, right? So press pause or whatever and just see how far you get. So 5 is 5.00, right? 8 into 5 goes 0 times. The decimal point needs to be here. What's 8 into 50? Well, 6 8s are 48, right? So 8 into 50 is 6 times, remainder 2. What's 8 into 20? 8 into 20 goes twice. 2 8s is 16. Remainder 4, right? What's 8 into 40? 8 into 40 goes 5 times, right? So I have 0.625. So that's the decimal, but I need to turn this into a percentage. So I'm going to move the decimal point 2 spaces to the right. So that is 62.5%. Okay. So 62.5%. Now, what about 2 1/4? Let's see. If I want to write this as a percentage, what I'm going to do is turn this into a decimal, first of all. If I want to turn a mixed number into a decimal, I'm just going to turn the fraction part into a decimal, right? So I'm just going to work on the 1/4. What's 4 into 1? And again, I think we might have done this earlier, huh? That ends up being, we did this earlier, didn't we? 4 into 1 is 0 times. 4 into 10 goes twice, remainder 2. 4 into 20 goes 5 times. So, of course, 2 1/4 is 2, plus 2 and 0.25, because the 1/4 is 0.25. So 2 1/4, of course, is just 2.25. Okay, so I have 2.25. If I turn that into a percentage, I must move the decimal point 2 spaces to the right. See? So that's 225%, right? How about 3.5? First of all, write that as a decimal. What's 3.5 as a decimal? What's 1/2 as a decimal? 1/2 as a decimal, we did it earlier, is 0.5, right? So I have 3 and a half, or 3 and 0.5, which of course is 3.5. Now turn that into a percentage. You need to move the decimal point where? 2 spaces to the right. 1, 2. Put in a placeholder 0. So we have 350%. Okay, that's the answer, 350%. Now, percentages, once again, they can be above 100. This might be, once again, something like interest, where, or it could be your population of cats on a farm. You know, you started with 100 cats, and then a lot of them weren't fixed and stuff, and then they all of a sudden at the end of the year you have 350 cats. So they increased by 350%. You know, big farm, a lot of cats, but yeah, that type of thing, where an amount increases by its original amount, then you have a percentage more than 100. Anyway, okay, 1 1/8. I'd like you to turn the 1/8 into a decimal first of all. So you've got to go 8 into 1. Okay, so we start with that. Turn the fraction part into a decimal. 8 into 1, and that's 1.000, right? Eight into 1 goes 0 times. Put the decimal point up here. What's 8 into 10? 8 into 10 goes once, remainder 2, right? What's 8 into 20? 8 into 20 twice, remainder 4. What's 8 into 40? 8 into 40 is 5 times. So 1 1/8 is 1 plus the 1/8 part is 0.125. So what I have is 1.125. And to turn that into a percentage, you need to move the decimal point. Okay? So you can just move the decimal point 2 spaces to the right, and that's 112.5%. Okay. Now 22 over 41. We're going to turn this into a percentage and round to the nearest tenth of a percent. So we're going to go 41 into 22 first of all, and stick on a bunch of zeros and just see how far you need to go with this, right? So 41 into 22 won't go. 41 into 220. I'm going to guess 5 times, and decimal point needs to be here. This is going to be 0. So 5 times 1 is 5. 5 times 4 is 20. Subtract, and this gives me 15. And now let's see, bring this 0 down. 41 into 140. Let's see, 3 4s is 12, right? 4 4s is 16. So I'm going to try 3 times. 3 1s is 3. 3 4s is 12. Now subtract. Turn this into a 4. Carry 1 over here. 10 minus 3 is 7. 4 minus 2 is 2. Okay, and bring this 0 down. 41 into 270. Let's see. Well, 5 fours is 20. 6 fours is 24. 7 fours is 28. Now I have basically 27. It's kind of like 4 into 27, right? So I'm going to guess 6 times. 6 ones is 6. 6 fours, 24. Now subtract. Okay, so let's see. Turn that into a 6. Carry a 1 over here. 10 minus 6 is 4. 6 minus 4 is 2. Now, we're going to turn this decimal into a percentage soon. In which case, this decimal point is going to go over to here. But I want it as a percentage to the nearest tenth. So, I don't know whether I need to round up or down on the 6. So I'll need one more unit, one more digit here. Okay, so I'll bring the 0 down and go 41 into 240 goes. Now remember, 6 of them was 246. So it's not going to be 6, it'll be 5 of them, a bit less. 5 times 1, 5 times 4, 20, subtract, and that gives me 35. Another 0, 41 to 350. But hold on a second, I have enough now to round it, because I'm going to round this to the nearest tenth of a percent. Basically, okay, this is giving me 0.5365, and then it continues. And to put it into a percentage, I'll move the decimal point here so that I get 53.65 and so on percent. But I want to round it to the nearest tenth of a percent, so I'm going to round up to this digit here, the 6, and after the 6 comes a 5. So do I round up or round down? I round up, don't I? 0.7%. Yep. 53.7%, right?